Bullies egg him on the street. They didn't know. He's the son of a brutal police chief. Marcus Rivera kept his head down as he walked through the crowded hallways of Westfield High School, his worn-out sneakers squeaking against the polished linoleum. At 17, he was average height, but lean to the point of looking fragile, with dark hair that always seemed to fall into his eyes, and clothes that hung loose on his narrow frame. His pale complexion and naturally quiet demeanor made him blend into the background like a ghost. New to the school after his family moved across town, Marcus had learned quickly that invisibility was his best defense. The halls of Westfield were a social minefield. Cliques formed impenetrable barriers, from the popular kids with their designer clothes and confident laughter to the athletes who walked like they owned the building. Then there were the burnouts smoking behind the gym, the theater kids rehearsing lines between classes, and the academic elite who treated every conversation like a debate tournament. Marcus fit into none of these categories, making him effectively invisible to most, and unfortunately visible to those who preyed on the overlooked. The move had been sudden and traumatic for Marcus. His father, Chief Roberto Rivera, had been transferred to head the police department in this district after a corruption scandal rocked the previous administration. The media attention had been intense, newspaper headlines screaming about cleanup operations, and new leadership, television reporters camping outside their old house, asking probing questions about his father's plans to restore integrity to local law enforcement. But Marcus never mentioned his father's position to anyone at Westfield. He'd seen what happened when people knew who his dad was, the fear in their eyes, the way conversations died when he entered a room, how even teachers would suddenly become overly formal and careful around him. Here at Westfield, he was determined to be just another quiet kid trying to blend in. His father had always been a complex figure in Marcus's life. Chief Rivera was respected and feared in equal measure throughout the city. Stories circulated about his legendary temper when dealing with corrupt officers, his zero-tolerance policy for police misconduct, and his innovative but sometimes controversial methods for cleaning up problem departments. At home, though, he was simply a father who helped with homework, attended Marcus's karate tournaments, and insisted on family dinners every Sunday. The dichotomy was jarring, and Marcus had never quite figured out how to reconcile the two versions of the man who raised him. "Keep walking," Marcus told himself as he navigated toward his locker. "Just get through the day." But peace wasn't in the cards for Marcus Rivera. Well, look what we got here." The voice belonged to Tyler Grimm, a stocky 18-year-old with bleached hair and arms covered in tattoos his older brother had given him. Tyler ruled the school's social hierarchy through intimidation and had been looking for a new target ever since his last victim transferred schools. Marcus froze as Tyler stepped directly into his path, flanked by his two constant companions, Jake Morrison, a lanky basketball player with a cruel smile, and Danny Tank Velasquez, whose nickname came from both his size and his complete lack of empathy. "You're the new kid, right?" Tyler asked, though it wasn't really a question. "Marcus, something?" "Rivera," Marcus replied quietly, clutching his backpack straps. "Rivera," Tyler repeated mockingly. "You know, you've been here 3 weeks and nobody knows anything about you. That's weird, don't you think, guys?" Jake snickered. "Super weird." "Like, what are you hiding, stick boy?" Marcus felt his jaw clench but forced himself to stay calm. Dad always said never to start fights, only finish them. But his father had also taught him that sometimes walking away was the strongest choice you could make. "I'm not hiding anything," Marcus said, trying to step around them. "I just mind my own business." Tank's massive hand shot out, slamming against the lockers and blocking Marcus's escape route. "Maybe we want to make your business our business." The hallway had gone quiet. Other students watched from a safe distance, some recording with their phones, others just grateful the attention wasn't on them. Marcus noticed how teachers seemed to have mysteriously disappeared from this particular corridor. "Look, I don't want any trouble," Marcus said. "Too late for that," Tyler grinned. "See, we've got a system here at Westfield. New kids pay a little welcome tax. Think of it as an investment in your social future." "I could end this right now," Marcus thought. Years of training with his father's police academy instructors had taught him exactly how to disable all three of them before they knew what hit them. He'd learned defensive tactics, pressure points, and submission holds from men who'd served in special forces units, but his father's voice echoed in his mind. "Never use your training unless someone's life is in danger. The moment you fight back, everything changes." Chief Rivera had seen too many good kids get expelled, arrested, or worse because they couldn't control their temper. He'd made Marcus promise to be better than that. So Marcus reached into his pocket and pulled out the $20 he'd been saving for lunch that week. "Here, just leave me alone after this, okay?" Tyler snatched the money with a satisfied smirk. "See how easy that was? Same time next week, stick boy. Consider it a weekly subscription to not getting your face rearranged." As the three bullies walked away laughing, Marcus gathered the books that had scattered from his bag. Around him, normal conversation resumed as if nothing had happened. A few students gave him pitying looks, but no one offered to help. This became Marcus's new reality at Westfield High. Every Tuesday, Tyler and his crew would find him, sometimes in the cafeteria, where they'd accidentally knock over his lunch tray, forcing him to clean up the mess while other students pretended not to notice. Sometimes by the gym, where they'd corner him in the equipment room and demand payment while the coach was distracted. Once even in the library, where Marcus thought he'd be safe among the stacks of books and studious atmosphere. Each time, Marcus paid up and endured their increasingly creative taunts about his skinny frame, his second-hand clothes that never quite fit right, his apparent cowardice that seemed to invite more abuse. The pattern became predictable and soul-crushing. Tyler would approach with that predatory smile, Jake and Tank flanking him like loyal attack dogs. They'd start with verbal harassment, comments about Marcus's appearance, his family's obvious financial struggles, his complete lack of friends or social standing. When that got boring, they'd escalate to physical intimidation, shoving him into lockers hard enough to leave bruises, accidentally stepping on his feet with their heavy boots, flicking his ears during class when teachers weren't looking. The psychological warfare was even more effective than the physical abuse. They made him feel powerless, worthless, like he deserved everything they did to him. "Why don't you fight back?" he imagined his father asking. But Marcus knew the answer. Fighting back would mean questions. Questions would lead to investigations. Investigations would reveal who his father was, and then everything would change in ways Marcus didn't want to deal with. The bullying escalated gradually. Tyler began demanding more money, claiming inflation. Jake started accidentally bumping into Marcus in the hallways, sending his books flying. Tank would corner him in the bathroom and force him to clean the sinks while they laughed. Other students began to see Marcus as an easy target too, someone who wouldn't fight back no matter what you did to him. His lunch got accidentally knocked over. His homework disappeared from his locker. Girls giggled when he walked by, not with attraction, but with the cruel amusement reserved for the school's designated victim. Marcus told himself he could handle it. He'd endured worse during his father's training exercises. But the constant humiliation was wearing him down in ways that physical pain never could. The breaking point came on a cold October afternoon. Marcus was walking home from school, taking his usual route through the downtown area to avoid the school buses where Tyler and his crew might be waiting. He had his earbuds in, trying to lose himself in music, when a chunk of concrete exploded against the brick wall inches from his head. "Holy shit, my aim's getting worse," Tyler's voice called out from across the street. Marcus's blood ran cold. This wasn't school property. There were no teachers around, no security cameras, no administrators to worry about. Tyler, Jake, and Tank were walking toward him with the confidence of predators who'd cornered their prey in the perfect location. "Fancy meeting you here, stick boy," Tyler said, as the three of them surrounded Marcus against the wall of an abandoned storefront. "You know, I was thinking about our little arrangement. You already got your money this week," Marcus said, his voice steady despite his racing heart. "See, that's the thing," Tyler continued. "I think I've been undercharging you. I mean, protection should cost more, don't you think? And you've been so cooperative, I figured you could afford a price increase." Jake laughed. "Plus interest for all the times you made us come find you." Tank cracked his knuckles. "And late fees." Marcus looked around desperately. The street was empty, except for a few cars passing by, too fast to see what was happening, too focused on their own destinations to care about some kids on the sidewalk. "I don't have any more money," Marcus said. "That's okay," Tyler smiled, and for the first time, Marcus saw something truly dangerous in his eyes. "We accept other forms of payment." The first punch caught Marcus in the stomach, doubling him over. Jake's knee came up toward his face, but Marcus managed to turn his head just enough that it only grazed his cheek. Tank's massive hands grabbed him by the shoulders and slammed him back against the brick wall. "This is it," Marcus thought, as stars exploded behind his eyes. "Dad's rules don't apply when they're actually trying to hurt me." But before he could react, Tyler pulled out his phone and started recording. "Smile for the camera, stick boy. This is going out to everyone at school. Local coward gets what he deserves. It'll go viral." That's when something inside Marcus snapped. Not the violence, not the humiliation, but the idea that his degradation would be entertainment for others, that Tyler thought he could broadcast Marcus's pain for the amusement of their classmates. Marcus's mind went perfectly calm, the way his father had taught him during countless training sessions. Time seemed to slow down as he assessed the situation with clinical precision. Tyler was directly in front of him, phone held high, completely focused on recording. Jake was to his left, still laughing about the knee strike. Tank had loosened, his grip, confident that Marcus was beaten. They had no idea what they'd just unleashed. Marcus's right hand shot out in a perfect palm strike to Tyler's solar plexus. The blow was precisely calibrated, hard enough to knock the wind out of him and send him stumbling backward, not hard enough to cause permanent damage. Tyler's phone went flying, clattering across the pavement. Before Jake could react, Marcus spun and drove his elbow into the taller boy's ribs. Jake folded over with a wheeze, and Marcus followed up with a knee strike that sent him to the ground. Tank, finally realizing what was happening, threw a wild haymaker at Marcus's head, but Marcus had been training to fight men twice Tank's size since he was 12 years old. He ducked under the punch, stepped inside Tank's guard, and delivered a series of rapid strikes to pressure points along Tank's torso. The big kid's legs gave out and he collapsed to his knees, gasping. The entire encounter had lasted less than 15 seconds. Marcus stood over the three bullies, breathing hard, but completely in control. Tyler was clutching his chest, struggling to breathe. Jake was curled up on the ground, moaning. Tank was on his hands and knees, looking up at Marcus with genuine fear for the first time in his life. "You want to know who I really am?" Marcus asked, his voice deadly quiet. "My father is Chief Roberto Rivera. He runs every cop in this city. He's the man they call when other cops can't handle a situation." Tyler's eyes went wide with terror. "But here's the thing," Marcus continued, crouching down so he was at eye level with Tyler. "My dad taught me that violence should be the last resort, that real strength comes from walking away. I've been walking away from you idiots for 2 months, hoping you'd get bored and move on to someone else." He stood up, towering over them despite his lean frame. "But you just made this personal. You wanted to humiliate me in front of the whole school, film me getting beaten up and share it around like it was some kind of joke." Marcus's voice carried an authority that made all three bullies flinch. "That was your mistake." Tank tried to get to his feet, but Marcus's hand on his shoulder kept him down with surprising ease. "Here's what's going to happen," Marcus said. "You're going to leave me alone. You're going to leave everyone else alone. And if I hear about you targeting some other kid who can't defend themselves, I'll make sure my father knows exactly what kind of people you really are." Tyler finally managed to catch his breath. You can't threaten us with your dad. That's abuse of power." Marcus laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Threaten you? I'm not threatening anyone. I'm just letting you know that I have options you never considered. See, my dad doesn't just arrest bullies. He makes sure everyone knows what they really are. How do you think your parents would react if Chief Rivera showed up at their door with security footage of you three beating up a smaller kid?" Jake looked up from the ground, his face pale. "What security footage?" Marcus pointed to the traffic camera at the intersection 30 feet away. "This whole area is under surveillance. Everything that just happened is recorded, including you hitting me first." The three bullies exchanged panicked looks. "But here's the good news," Marcus said, his tone becoming almost conversational. "I'm going to walk away right now. I'm going to go home, have dinner with my family, and forget this ever happened. And if you're smart, you'll do the same thing." He started to walk away, then turned back one more time. "Oh, and Tyler, next time you want to record someone getting beaten up, you might want to make sure you're on the winning side first." The next day at school, everything was different. Marcus walked through the hallways with his head up for the first time since arriving at Westfield. Word had spread quickly about what happened, not the version Tyler had planned to share, but the truth. 3 bullies had cornered the quiet new kid, and he'd taken them apart like they were made of paper. Students who had never spoken to Marcus before nodded respectfully as he passed. Girls who had giggled at him now smiled genuinely. Even some of the teachers seemed to regard him with new interest. Tyler, Jake, and Tank avoided him completely. When their paths crossed in the hallways, they would find sudden interest in their phones or change direction entirely. The fear in their eyes was unmistakable. But Marcus was careful not to let the victory go to his head. During lunch, he saw a younger student being harassed by some 8th graders near the vending machines. The old Marcus might have walked away, telling himself it wasn't his business. The new Marcus walked over and simply stood next to the kid until the bullies lost interest and moved on. "Thanks," the younger student said. "Don't mention it," Marcus replied. But next time something like this happens, find a teacher or tell someone who can help. You don't have to handle everything alone. 3 weeks later, Tyler approached Marcus at his locker. The former bully looked nervous, constantly glancing around as if he expected to be attacked. "Hey, Marcus?" Marcus turned, noting how Tyler kept his distance and his hands visible. "What do you want, Tyler?" I wanted to say I'm sorry. About everything. The money, the harassment, all of it. I didn't know who your dad was, but that's not an excuse. What we did was wrong." Marcus studied Tyler's face, looking for signs of deception. He found none, just genuine remorse and lingering fear. "Apology accepted," Marcus said, "but I want you to understand something. I didn't fight back because of who my father is. I fought back because you crossed a line. Every person has a line, Tyler. The smart move is not to go looking for it." Tyler nodded earnestly. "I get it. And I've been thinking about what you said, about leaving other people alone. I think maybe I've been the kind of person I wouldn't want to meet in a dark alley." "The good news is that people can change," Marcus said. "But it takes work, real work, not just saying sorry and hoping everything goes back to normal." "I know," Tyler said. "I'm seeing the school counselor now, trying to figure out why I thought any of that was okay." Marcus closed his locker and shouldered his backpack. "That's a good start." As he walked away, Marcus reflected on how much had changed in just a few weeks. He'd learned that hiding from conflict didn't make it go away. It just gave bullies more time to find new victims, but he'd also learned that standing up for yourself didn't require becoming the thing you fought against. His father had been right about one thing. Real strength wasn't about how hard you could hit. It was about knowing when to hit, when to walk away, and when to use your voice instead of your fists. Marcus still kept his father's profession private, not out of shame, but because he wanted people to respect him for who he was, not who his family was, but he no longer felt the need to make himself invisible. He'd found the balance between staying out of trouble and standing up for what was right. The hallways of Westfield High felt different now, not because Marcus was feared, he'd made sure of that, but because everyone understood that quiet didn't mean weak, and that sometimes the most dangerous person in the